What is the difference between being punk and being a punk?
We are here to talk some punk rock, some music, comics,
Punk culture, DIY shit, anything we want to talk about.
That's what fascinates me. Give me everything. Absolutely everything.
I find that music and comics have always been intertwined.
Muckspout.
Chicks dig it. Don't worry.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Muckspout. I'm Eric here, and we got John over here, as usual. And Ben is not with us today. He's got school and other punk rock things like that. And today with us, we have another Eric, the prolific Eric of Pocket Vinyl.
Hi.
You want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Pocket Vinyl?
Yes. Hi, my name's Eric. I am the lead pianist and lead singer of the band Pocket Vinyl, which primarily is a duo of myself and my partner Elizabeth, who she paints on stage during every single show. She does a 2x2 foot painting, which we auction off after every show. And for the last 12 years, at a very, very DIY level, Elizabeth and I have been traveling all across the USA, making a very small but passionate and loyal fan base, and I don't know, making a living basically at a time where not a lot of musicians are. So it's we take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah.
And I will say, from an audience perspective, I saw you guys in Greenfield, Massachusetts at Hawks and Reed a few months ago. And,
yeah, that's right.
It was a multi-band showcase, so I saw the easel getting set up and everything, and I had no previous knowledge of you guys, and I was just like, so from an audience perspective, it's kind of like, what am I about to witness right now?
Oh yeah, no, I tell so many other bands to get a painter, and they're like, oh, we're afraid of stealing your thing, but it's like, it's whatever. Other people play guitar. It's not like guitar is like a one band thing. The implication is that every other painter would paint exactly like Elizabeth, which is obviously ludicrous. But yeah, no, we found that, man, the amount of times we, there's no, we feel like our band is a bit of a, like, we're a hard sell in like an email or written. Like, I feel like our band is like the equivalent of getting like a long text from someone where your eyes kind of glaze over for a minute, where it's like, well, I play piano and she paints on stage, we auction them off and do all these things. And it can easily get like, people's eyes can glaze over while we're saying it. But I suppose, like yourself, John, when we can get someone in a room with us, we usually do pretty good at like roping them in. And the amount of like barflies in, I don't know, Des Moines, Iowa or whatever, that we've been able to rope in, who just went for a drink with some friends or something, and then all of a sudden they become like fans. That's kind of been our bread and butter, really. So yeah, it's I'm glad we got you. I'm glad we got you in, man.
Oh God, yeah, it was amazing, and I think I was looking at the documentary earlier that you guys have online, and the 3-word moniker of Piano Slam Rock, I think, was just perfectly apropos. So I think that 3-word moniker is enough to get me in an email if you were to send that to me. So that's not a hard sell at all in my book.
I mean, because every band has to have their own genre, right? These days, like, that's just how marketing pretty much works. And so Piano Slam Rock is ours. Usually, or Piano Slam Rock with a live painter or something like that. But then you have to explain the whole live painter thing. You sort of understand what Piano Slam Rock means. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Checking out your stuff, I like that it's not a gimmick. The paintings are absolutely beautiful.
Elizabeth is insane. And I'll tell for any viewers and stuff too, Elizabeth does not like interviews. And she just, for whatever reason, she just never, I don't know. It's just not her thing. So she says hi, but
Okay.
she
Oh,
didn't want
her work
To
is
Elizabeth.
And it's don't you guys don't take it personal.
No, not at all. But I was talking to other Eric, this one, wherever he is, and I was saying, what's the worst that happens is we do this just like one of your performances, and she could have set up and done a painting that we could have auctioned off at the end of the.
There's a certain amount
podcast
of
if
pressure
we
for
wanted
being
to.
live. I get it.
You can actually see right here. There's
Oh,
a painting of hers of a robot with a bunch of animals around it. It's probably not too clear in the thing, but yeah, that was one. That's a commission she
Awesome.
actually did for someone just the other day.
I can. There we go. We can see it a little bigger now.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, right here,
Right there.
which is the same robot. I actually have a tattoo of him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a character who's shown up. He actually kind of started showing up around 2017, 2018 in a bunch of paintings. And then he appeared on our 2018 album on the cover. And,
What's his name?
He's the pocket vinyl robot. I don't know. We don't really have a name for him. I feel like stuff like that is for other people to canonize. You know what I mean? Not that we have the fan base that would big enough to do that, but that's for other people to decide on that name as a group. You know what I mean?
As long as in your head you know what his quirky personality is, that's the big part of making sure.
Yeah, he in my mind, I don't think he speaks. He's very gentle, kind of Iron Giant-y.
Always good.
Not necessarily like started as a weapon. Just I almost view him as like a forgotten robot that whoever the creator made other stuff and it just happened to wander into the woods and then befriended a bunch of bears and stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I think anyway.
That works for me. That's always my favorite type of robot, is the type that's kind of maybe half assembled in the back of the shop and maybe finished himself and then wandered off and did his own.
Like the C-3PO hopping down the hall with his leg in his hand.
Well, that's why? Because that's the most kind of human robot.
Exactly.
I think every single one of us feels like that thing discarded in the back, and then you.
I was just telling John about my crazy schedule. By November, I will be hopping down the hallway with my leg in my hand.
Yeah, we've been barely holding a schedule together for this show, so this was it was good that we could make the worlds collide tonight.
Yeah.
To all get together.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, honestly, comics and music, when you reached out to me, I apologize, I had ignorance of the show, but comics and music are pretty much our bread and butter. We find that our music fans they tend to be the ones that to more come out to shows they're a bit more vocal and stuff. But Elizabeth has her online comic called The Turing Test, which is more or less a semi-autobiographical comic about our lives as artists, and that is by far and away the most she has almost 50,000 followers. And she used to have 50,000. For some reason it dipped, and
Fun.
I don't know, just whatever, the algorithm's weird. And those people, there's a lot of them, but they're fickle. They're more fickle, which I think that, for comic artists, that's to be expected. Whereas I think the music fans tend to be mostly people who either saw us at a show somehow, or came across our thing on Spotify or something and decided to check it out and kind of get more involved. But both of them are kind of equal in terms of helping us stay afloat and helping us, continue as full-time artists in this day and age where, I don't know, I saw within the last year, people like Lord and Animal Collective and other huge bands had to cancel whole tours because they're even if it's sold out, we can't afford it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They would, and so it to be able to drive around in a Subaru Outback named Hatchie Van Hatchbatch and make a living for ourselves for two people is something we, like I said earlier, we kind of take a lot of pride in and is something that I'm almost shocked is as rare, I guess, as we are.
And it seems like you guys have that drive to really push it. I've just watching some of the documentary and everything. It's phenomenal, the amount of people, like you said, that just to make gas to the next show, to sell the merch and everything like that, to be able to keep moving is huge.
I don't know how to explain this. I haven't yet figured out the way to explain this, but that is like an often question of people, kind of something along the lines of like, how do you keep going? How does it like, and the best answer I figured out so far is like, oh, we have no choice. Like we were born with something inside of us that like refuses to let us stop. And I've known a lot of musicians who are brilliant, their brain can't do like road life, and a lot of comic artists who have no idea what to do in front of a crowd. And a lot of, for some reason, Elizabeth and I it does help that, we're married, we're together. When we leave, besides our cats, which we miss very dearly, we're not like leaving any, kids or a spouse or anything back home. And I think that's a real killer of just being away from your loved ones. So while we miss friends and everything, it's nice to be able to travel and work with the one you love and have it really work out. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like there's something in us that we're in the process. We just started recording a new album, and we have an entire song about, it's like a story song about a fictional person who loses their passion for art, and they feel completely freed by it. And it's not like something to mourn, but something to be like, oh, I can finally rest. And I love it, and I don't say this as a complaint as much as like, I think sometimes people give us like as if it's a virtue of like, wow, you have so much stamina, and it's like, no, we feel like we're being dragged by our own brains and our own, like, whether you call it passion or drive or whatever, just the thing that makes us keep going just won't let us quit. And I'm thankful for it, especially when times get hard and you want to quit, but intellectually, but emotionally, you just kind of keep going. But still, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily something to be admired.
And we've talked about that on this show before, and I think that's why your story spoke to us so much, is that we have the same kind of drive between comics, and our other co-host is a drummer, and you have that thing inside you that you need to get out creatively somehow. Yeah. And none of us are making a damn penny off the thing. Maybe Ben is. He's touring up in Toronto. But
I'm just happy to not go into the red.
Is that why he's not here now?
He's been touring a little bit, and he's also been back in school. So he's otherwise occupied right now. But he plays for a band called Mute Sounds, and they've been doing pretty well. They had an album that came out in 2 parts over this year. Nice. So he's been doing pretty well. But yeah, for the most of it, it's like we consider it the same thing. It's like it's not necessarily that you have a choice in it. You almost have a mental illness that you need to fulfill and get it out into the world, because we're not making a penny, but hey, this is something we need to get out there.
Absolutely. So, I remember so the album we're working on now, depending on what you count, but we released this last February. We released an album, which was technically our 10th album since, and and that number's, I don't know, depends on there's a few things. I won't get into it, but you can count different things. But we, I remember when we released our 4th album, for some reason, I feel like most bands, even like hit bands, like get like 3 albums kind of is like the thing. Your first album is your debut. Your second album is kind of like helps kind of refine. It's almost like points on a graph. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then a 3rd album almost like makes like a trilogy. We have that kind of in our culture. And then I remember when our 4th album came out, it's like, and now we have a back catalog, and like there's some fans that like your early stuff and not this, and now it's weird that like there's someone who could probably like, there have been people who've told me that they like love like these 3 albums, but they haven't even checked out any of our other albums. Yeah. And you think, but then I think about that, and there's totally bands. I love Tom Waits, and I don't think I've listened to all his stuff. I love, a lot of bands that I just haven't ultimately checked out, like every single thing that they've done. And it's weird to like kind of get to that point, and at a certain point you have to say like, well, what else do I have to say? And then you kind of have to mind yourself, because sometimes you get into the thing where you want to keep making art, but you don't know what to make art about. And I've known a lot of bands and comic artists, I think too, who, they get so passionate about making a few certain things, and then when they get that out of their system, they're like, well, I'm in this career, and then they start making stuff like just to make stuff. And that,
I avoid that.
Yeah, that rarely works. I feel like in terms of being like an amazing thing, and then I just think it's I don't know. You have to kind of find that. It is a balance, I guess, a bit. Now that I'm kind of thinking out loud of finding like, well, what else worthwhile do I have to say while you continue to make more stuff? Because I feel like I still feel like we're a young band, even though we've released like so much and done so many things. Like we played our 1,000th show last November, and I still am like, yeah, all right, well, I want to onwards and upwards. Like
when I was looking at your tour schedule, I was like, holy shit, this is insane. I've been complaining about all the travel I've been doing for work this year, and then I saw your schedule and I was like, I've hardly moved.
Yeah, but it's all whatever you can handle. Like, again, I know some brilliant musicians who like can maybe handle a week on tour, and that's a lot for them. And I think sometimes like a week for certain people's brains and minds can be more for them than 5 weeks for mine. You know what I mean? Just because of what kind of can exhaust you in life.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also completely dependent on, there's bands out there that need to balance like a 40-hour work week. They don't, they aren't touring full times, and they're trying to fit in those crazy tour schedules in between. So yeah, it's like it's amazing watching some of those bands too that are like trying to work in a factory for 40 hours, and then their weekends they're 3 states away doing stuff. And just
and that's me. For us, we lucked out with, again, so Elizabeth makes the paintings and then we auction them off at the end of each show, and that for sure has been at least half of our income tends to come for those. Sometimes the paintings go for very little, other times they go for very much, and it can be very much a whiplash on tour when you're playing like, I don't know, some weird little coffee shop in the middle of Kansas, and like you make like $30 or something total that night, and then the next night you play in a place where you have some fans and they come out, and then you walk away with over $1,000, and then the night after that you make like $25, and like it's such like like exciting and depressing and fun and terrible.
It's a weird roller coaster.
But we just came out of COVID a couple of years ago, and you guys have been around for a while, so you've had your pre-COVID and your post-COVID band life. Do people support bands at shows more now than they did before COVID? I ask because I personally know that I do. Like, because during COVID, I was buying stuff from bands just to help keep them afloat, like constantly. And now I've gotten into a thing where I love to buy from the band, like whenever I can. And so.
I'm with there too. And I'm like, especially at like a smaller show and stuff. There's so much of our money these days is spent digitally and like just throwing numbers around. And it's fun to be in front of someone and it's going right to that person and like a very direct thing. But no, in terms of people coming out to shows, I honestly think there's still, and no one really talks about it, but I think there are still a lot of people who are being careful and staying indoors, and who, there's, for some people, they're like, what, COVID's been over for like 2 years or whatever already. And there's a lot of people who are still, like, we've had people who've come to shows within the last 6 months, and they said it was the first big public event they've been to since like COVID, and so since COVID started. So I think there's still a good portion of the population that is just not going out and doing stuff.
But the people that do go, are they buying more merch than they maybe used to, or is that a thing? No.
I don't know, because I have crunched the numbers, and our tours have been pretty good since post-COVID, but I don't know if it's that, or if it's like we kind of feel like we've been doing a little better in terms
Yeah.
of like reaching more people. So
Yeah, I guess it's hard to judge when there's like a 3-year
yeah,
gap
I
in
mean,
between.
I think it's more the latter. And again, when I say this to anyone listening or watching or whatever, it's, I mean, we pride ourselves that because we've toured so much, our fan base is spread very thinly over the United States, and there are some international folks, but mostly in the United States, spread really thinly to where we can almost play anywhere in the United States. And I'd say 90% of the time, 1 to 5 people will show up super excited to see us, and those are often the people who like keep us afloat. And then it's just like barflies or, you know, DIY showgoers or whoever else happens to be there for other bands or anything. But, you know, we have like, you know, certain places where, you know, you can draw more than that. But like there's no town where I feel comfortable saying we draw more than like 20 to 30 people. You know what I mean? And so our shows often are small, but I've also found that like we've played some shows to like 100 people and all of them don't really care about us and we hardly make any money or anything. And we played some shows to 5 people and walked away with like $400 because they like, you know, someone gets the painting, maybe there's like a fight over it and there's a bidding war and then people get merch. And so it's, I don't know, to me, the one thing I've learned is that it's definitely quality, not quantity of a crowd. And our crowds and people who've purposely come to see us, and thankfully a lot of people who aren't purposely seeing us but for whatever reason are at the show, tend to I don't know, we tend to do okay enough to support 2 people anyway and you know, making a living. So
And a couple cats.
and a couple cats. Yeah, I got one on my lap right now. This is Whiskey. It's okay, bye girl. Yeah, but it's, you know, we're just, I don't know, man. I'm just thankful to keep going. Like,
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years into this, it was like that. There's always that phrase, I feel like, especially when you're younger, like, I want to make it. Like, let's make it. And then like 3 years into it, I was like, I've been a working artist for 3 years. I think this is making it. Like, you know, yeah, I wish we were playing to bigger crowds and everything, but like, I don't know. There's been people who said we're their favorite band. And it's like, isn't that what
That's
everyone
amazing.
wants? Do you know what I mean? Like it's a weird, so it's, I don't know, it's all about perspective. And I don't know, I think just feeling lucky that you're just alive and doing anything.
Yeah. What so the name Pocket Vinyl.
It's nothing. It's not.
Okay.
Whatever your question is about the meaning, I honestly, we were trying to come up with a name. We figured most people would actually read it and see it on paper, not say it. So we wanted a name that looked good on paper. And something about the phrase pocket vinyl is what we landed on, of something like that, just kind of like the word vinyl specifically is handsome. Like it's got the Y towards the end and the tall L. There's something like a dip about it with like a capital V, and then pocket, somehow it kind of has like, you know, the curves of the O, the P, and the C, but then the hard letters of like the K and like the hard lines. And I don't know, something about it just looked handsome, and we kind of
like the word vinyl is like a big thing these days, but like 11 years ago when you started, I think the vinyl comeback was still a little early.
It was starting. Like Record Store Day was already a thing. And I was in the records then. Like I had just kind of gotten into them, and that was, I'm sure, part of the reason why I was gravitated towards the word vinyl. But yeah, it's funny, you know, the phrase pocket vinyl, just it almost, I forget that the word vinyl is like, I almost don't think of that as like what both of those words mean. Is like, I forget that, and it's more just like pocket vinyl is us. It's this band. It's the movie we made, the book, you know, it's everything.
And I'm picturing like very portable vinyl that you can just put right in your pocket.
Yeah, I was wondering if it had to do with like they started doing those little records for the car.
Oh, I forgot about those. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I don't even know why. That makes no sense to me. Like you'd have like what, one song on like a little 4-inch. It was like,
well, have you seen the 3-inch vinyls?
Yeah, Record Store Day, they usually put a couple of those out.
Yeah, I have a buddy of mine owns a local record store, and he has like a bunch, and you have to get a special player for them, and it's just one song per thing. And I I don't know. He says he doesn't sell many of them. I don't know who's into those. I think it's more just a fun gag gift.
Novelty, yeah.
I was going to say it's a niche market, like putting an 8-track player in your car in 2023 or something.
Yeah, right. But it's, I mean, any vinyl is pocket vinyl, depending on how big the pocket is.
Oh yeah,
This
I
is
like
true.
That's a marketing mind right there.
Especially if your giant robot had a nice smock that could carry vinyl.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if he were a thing that was real life, that would also be that would help carry the vinyl.
It's not real. You're killing me here.
It's not.
You're telling me.
It's conceptual at this point. It could be real someday.
All right.
I
Okay.
did find it funny that you named your car, but you didn't name your robot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the car is a physical thing that exists in the
Okay.
world. That's a
fair.
member of the band, basically. Before Hatchie Van Hatchbatch, we had Dr. Periwinkle, and then before that we had this 2000, what was it, like a 2003 Accord, Honda Accord. No, an Altima. We only had it for 6 months. It was the crappiest car in the world. It was the complete lemon. I hated it. We bought it for like $3,000. Ended up spending $5,000 to try to fix it up over those 6 months, and then ultimately had to junk it because it wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we mostly travel around in cars. That's how you can do it with a duo. That's also to help save costs and kind of stay alive on the road when you don't have a van, which is nice.
I suppose the reason we're here and we're hitting the back half of the show here is we should probably talk about the book.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you're touring, supporting here.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. There. Yeah. That's How to Completely Lose Your Mind, a graphic novel memoir of one indie band's attempt to break a world record. It's a very long title, which the publisher said would be very good at being Googleable keywords that people would stumble upon it. So that's why it's that way. Even though I know what you're thinking, graphic novel memoir, that really doesn't make sense because novel means fiction and a memoir means nonfiction. But if you call it a graphic memoir, it sounds like you're like a porn star that wrote like an autobiography. And
Which
so,
you might get even more Googles, but
Yeah,
it's
so
a whole
yeah,
different thing.
graphic memoir. Yeah, I don't know. We had to write graphic novel memoir, even though it doesn't make sense. But I guess that's how English language changes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's the entire book. It was kind of our pandemic project. In 2019, we did a tour where we tried to play a show in every state in the fastest amount of time. I was somehow, I forget how, but somehow I came across the fact that there was a Guinness World Record for playing a show in every state in the fastest amount of time. And according to Guinness, the record is 50 states in 50 days. And I saw that and I turned to Elizabeth and I was like, hey, listen to this. And I like told her that. And she kind of like paused for a minute and said, that's really beatable. And I was like, right? That's incredibly beatable. Like we could totally do that. And then when we started talking to everyone else, we found out that what is considered beatable, we apparently have very skewed ideas of what that is. And almost everyone else is like, are you nuts? Like, why would you do that? You're going to kill yourselves.
Yeah,
And
you know the human body has limits, right? Come on.
Yeah, and I don't know, just something about it seemed fun. And even like, you know, the more we dug into it, we actually, Guinness to this day, and it's fine, but does not recognize us as the world record holders because among the long list of, understandably, for Guinness to have a record, they need like, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, proof that someone did something. And a record like this, which takes, you know, weeks to do, we needed to make sure that 2 Guinness representatives or like government officials or something were at every single show.
Holy
and we
cow.
had to pay travel and expenses for each of them. That on top of like, every show had to be the capacity of each venue had to be over 100 people, which I mean, we play in a lot of small bars. It had to be public spaces. So house shows were out. A lot of DIY spaces weren't technically like labeled as like official public venues. And a lot of places that we play and have connections with that often are the best shows in like small tight spaces were just unavailable. And I remember when we so the state of Maine, for instance, when we applied all those things and then applied the factor of like, well, what venue would actually book us for a show who can't really guarantee much of a crowd anywhere. Like I said, 1 to 5 people usually show up. Sometimes it's nobody. Sometimes it's much more than that. But it's anytime a venue asks me like, can you guarantee this amount of people? I'm just like, I don't think we can work together because no, I can't. I'll hope with you. I'll hope for the best. And it usually turns out great. But so like Maine, once we applied all these things in the state of Maine, there were only 5 venues that I could find that met those criteria. And of those 5 venues, they had to respond to an email and say, yes, you can play here. And so we quickly kind of learned that we just can't do it by Guinness's standards. And we were like, whatever, let's just do it by our own standards. Like, we'll know it. Anyone paying attention to us will know it. I dare say, I think it's still an impressive feat to just travel to all 50 states, regardless of what. And once we kind of got that, it was just this huge burden off our shoulders. And we're like, who cares? And now we have, a book, and it's a published book by an actual publisher that came up to us and we're like, I think we can make money off you. And we said, great. And it's, it feels like we have enough. There's enough of a footprint in the world to prove that we did it, at this point.
Yeah, and with social media, I mean, you guys have all sorts of documentation.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you were talking about Guinness, I was like, social media should be proof enough for most of this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. A friend of mine kind of told me too, and I think this is kind of the turning point when we decided to not worry about it. He's like, dude, I think like 13-year-olds care about the Guinness World Records. And unless you are actively trying to break a record, is anyone really like, oh man, the Guinness? And they have, I don't know, not to just
next time you do world's longest fingernails and
that'd be great for a piano band. I'm sure I'd be able to really nail it.
Or a painter for that matter. It would be fabulous.
But she could just dip the fingernails and kind of do more abstract stuff as she just claws at the board.
See, so there's a talent right there that probably hasn't been done before in Guinness.
Well, that's the thing. At a certain point, it does kind of feel like Guinness, people were just making up world records to have. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I don't know.
There's a reason they're no competitors to Guinness. Nobody cares that much.
Right. But it is still fun.
It's fun. But you can still say it without, you're just not Guinness recognized.
Yeah, even there was actually 2 guys, I forget who they are. They're 2 guys. They're from more famous bands and they have solo careers and they're going on tour together. I think they might be in the middle of it now, actually. And they were trying to officially do it and get the world record and do it in 49 days. And we had a few fans who commented on their things and tagged us. And we're like, Bhagavan already beat this even before you started. And, again, I think they're probably going to get the I have not checked up on them since they just announced it. I don't even know when it is, but they'll probably get the official record. But, and good for them. That's great. I hope it brings a lot of people out for them and stuff. But honestly, the thing that we're most happy about with is the fact that it produced this book that we're just incredibly you're proud of everything you put out, but this, I don't know, if I can toot my own horn, I feel like we really freaking nailed it with this comic, and I feel so confident and sure in it, and it's the kind of confidence where I feel like no matter what kind of reviews, everyone could hate it, but I feel like we did our best, and I can go to my grave knowing that it's just that it was the best thing we could do, and that kind of satisfaction I feel like is what you need to strive for in any piece of art. And I'm excited about all the music and everything, but I don't know if I've quite felt this way about this project as I don't know if I've felt quite the same way about other things that we've done. And so it's just it's a very, very exciting time to be on the Pocket Vinyl train.
And it's I'm super excited to see it. And Elizabeth Style is we saw some of the interior artwork and it just looks amazing. She's so stoked to see this thing.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth for much of her life has been her talent is far above her weight class in terms of like, where we're at. We know, I don't know if I may brag about her for a bit. Yeah. So that right there, that's one of the paintings that she's done in roughly 45 minutes or so on stage.
Yeah, these are beautiful. Just
Yeah. Uh, like the shade, if you look at like the just, yeah, like the shading on the bear, the light, the foreground trees, the background, not even to mention just kind of like the story that I think as you look at this, we often say that like almost every painting of Elizabeth's looks like a scene from a much bigger story.
yeah.
And it's and you kind of, I think everyone kind of makes up like what they think it is. Like, is that bear a statue? Is it a real bear? Is it a spirit? Is it an actual bear? What's their relationship? Is she taming it? Is she trying to call upon it? Are they already friends? Like, there's so many interpretations. And I think that's one of the things that makes her art so compelling. And even though, the comic is all black and white, and it was done in pen and ink, it just, I feel like she was able to match that. And there's so many, because like we toured all over the country, she did so many there's a lot of great landscape photos and of just as we're going around and things. And it's an absolutely beautiful book. We're trying to get our publisher to throw it to like a bunch of like comic awards and stuff, because I am so proud of her. And so like, I know I'm biased. I know like she's the best human I've ever met as a personality wise, regardless of her talent, but I'm constantly in awe of her. I've sat next to her while she's made over 1,000 paintings on shows and stuff. And it's still, I'm always just amazed at what she does. And I'm just really excited for, people to read the book and get it, because like some early reviews and some fans have already been able to get a copy from some websites, already sent them out, even though the release date is this Tuesday. And it seems like people have said that the book made them cry, it made them laugh, and all that was very intentional. And it's just, man, it's nice when you do something.
Before we forget to touch on it, where can you find this book right now?
Oh, everywhere. You can like from target.com to your local bookstore. Like it's literally everywhere. It's like I said, this is the first time we haven't self-published something. Like all our music we put out ourselves, all our she has some collections of her Turing Test comic that we just self-published that we have at our merch table and stuff. But this is like the publisher. It's out everywhere. If you just search the How to Completely Lose Your Mind, I don't know. We always recommend bookshop.org or Thrift Books, because those kind of support more small business and local stores. It's available pretty much anywhere where books are sold.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a long tangent there. I'm seriously so.
That's why you're here. Say how to get it. So I was like, let's get that in real quick before we forget.
Yeah.
And I like, since we're so big into DIY and just being proud of doing projects like this, it really hit us that you have the misprint of the book that you guys sat on a throne of you bought all your misprinted books, so there would be none out in the wild. So there's like almost 2,000 of them just in the floor below me in our basement, pretty much almost right below me, just sitting there in boxes. And like, honestly, if you go to the pocketvinyl.com, you can watch the video where they're both sitting on a throne of their recalled books, which is hilarious and wonderful. And it's just, it was a very good and humorous take on something that could have been seen as such a tragedy. And you guys rolled with it so well that it impressed me, like, beyond words. So
a beautiful backdrop too.
It was a cool design. Yeah, with like the zigzag books. Yeah, it was kind of one of the things we like sort of came up with it as we were stacking them, and we're like, that looks great. To include those listening or anything, the long short of it is basically our publisher in early August we got the first few boxes of the book, and it wasn't coming out until October 10th, and we opened them up and we noticed that page 272 was exactly the same page as 270 or 268. They were the same page, and that's not what should have happened. And instead, 270 Shoe should have been a different page, and that page was completely gone. And we got so depressed, and we just like, well, no, I'm sorry. First, we contacted we had about 200 copies, I think they sent to our house, and that was like what we requested for just, sell and stuff for when the release came. And we told the publisher, we're like, hey, these have a pretty big mistake. Like, it's like a whole scene from a movie is missing. You know what I mean? So like, what's the protocol? What do we do here? And they're a small publisher, and they're just like, I'm sorry, we've already printed 2,000 of these. We need to sell them. Like, we can't eat the cost. And we were just like, no, like that, absolutely not. This is not even though it's one page out of 300, when you say it like on paper, it seems like not a big deal as you talk about it, but it wasn't what we intended. And so we kind of went back and forth on a few things, and we were like, well, can we buy all 2,000 books from you and print fixed ones? And they were like, yeah, maybe. I don't know if we're going to reach, I don't know if we can do that before the release date. Thankfully, now 2 days away from the release date, we can safely say that all books have been delivered. All stores have them. They're all to all the websites and everything. So thankfully, we were able to catch it in time. But yeah, they let us buy it, and it was about $2.50 per book. Of the printing cost. That's thankfully they were kind enough to only charge us that. And so we spent $5,000 and I tell you, it was the most relieving $5,000 I've ever spent. Like when we figured that out, and when the wheels got in motion, and it was fixed. It was like, even though it's a lot of money and everything, we were just like, whew, like it was a relief. And it's money we don't have, but we're just throwing it on a credit card and we'll pay it down eventually. But I don't know. It's just, there's something to be said about it. It's just like it needed to be the thing we needed it to be, and it's a lot of some people commented when a few days ago when we posted that video and kind of came out about all this. A few people commented like, well, I'll buy one. I'll do the costs. And we're like, no, you don't get it. We bought these so that you wouldn't buy one. we bought them so that they wouldn't, be out there. So no one would buy a whole book. And you ever seen Elf? You know the movie Elf? Yeah. It's what his dad, the villain, it's what they do. He's like at the beginning of the movie, they're like, no, this book doesn't have enough pages to print it. Like, it's a villainous thing. And we were just like, that's not gonna fly. And so it's just, I don't know, it's a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so sorry or whatever, but honestly to our minds, it's like we went through all this emotionally months ago, and now we're just, we honestly were just trying to turn it into like a PR campaign to try to just get people to get the real book. But we still have no idea what we're gonna do with all the books. I mean, I don't know, we might use them to like build stuff for some, I don't know, like build a castle or something out of them, just see what we can figure out here and there. But I mean, we'll probably just end up throwing them all away sometime years down the line when we're like, they've been sitting there for 10 years. What do we do? But honestly, if the same choice was in front of me right now, I'd spend $5,000 more to do the exact.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what it's like to have something out there in the world with the wrong words in it, and it's just you don't want that. And
and even like, I don't know, like if it was a typo or something, that's one thing, but a whole page missing, like we have a few friends who've like worked at like Image and other like big graphic novel places and comic places, and they've said we're one of the first graphic novels that our publisher has put out, and they've been great with communication, great with talking with us and stuff, but like I just think it's a bit of a new process to them. And so when you put out a novel and there's a few grammar errors or whatever, it's not a huge deal, but like, and I think most people kind of forgive that, but like a whole page missing is just, that's just not that just doesn't fly in anywhere else in the business. And so but I don't know, look, is what it is. And, I think people responded well. I know a lot of people said they got pre-orders after we put up the video. And so I think, hopefully we'll sell some books, and then maybe we'll sell enough to where we'll make some money on the back end.
So your tour kicks off in a couple of days.
Yeah. We'll be
Okay.
on the road from October 10th to November 16th.
Yeah, I was looking at the dates. I'm curious about the Peoria, Illinois date. I was looking at the Midwest dates, and I'm out of town for like a lot in the next few weeks, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's when they're gonna be around.
Wait, is that
Yeah.
is that
But then But then I saw Peoria. I'm south of Chicago.
Oh,
but
cool.
Peoria it's a little bit of a distance, but that's actually after I'm back in town, so I'm looking at that one.
Well, I don't know. The Chesterton, Indiana show, that's in like northwestern. That's like like 45 minutes, an hour from Chicago. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
closer, but like
That one I think just fell within the time that I'm gone.
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
oh, either way,
Yeah, when I saw Peoria, I was like, oh, November. I could maybe swing that.
we tried to get a Chicago show happening, but I unfortunately couldn't find any comic shops or libraries or anything around the Chicago area that would give us.
Did you check out Quimby's?
Quimby's, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I throw so many emails around. I don't know if it's a good place, but
Or like
I know.
maybe-
What was it? There's like, is it Buckets of Blood or something?
Oh yeah.
That one looks promising for a bit, but ultimately it kind of fell through. But that place looked really cool. I'm hoping to stop there sometime.
Honestly, sometimes I'd rather drive somewhere else than Chicago, just because parking is such a hassle in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Well, that's what
I love to drive up to Milwaukee because it's only a couple hours. Chicago is already almost an hour from me, so it's like another hour, and I don't have to deal with the parking situation.
Yeah. Well, even that's. I mean, in the book, the Illinois show of the 50 states was in Chicago proper, but it was like an apartment show.
No.
And I remember, I think I had to park like 5 blocks away because
Yeah,
that's the closest place.
parking everywhere.
Yeah. And so it was. I remember like we unloaded and then I went and parked and it's like run back. Good times.
Yeah, that's always what I equate with having to go to Chicago. I love Chicago, but it's gotta be worth the hassle for me to go.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly any big city like that. Like we found, especially as a small DIY band, we found that like your Chicago's, New York's, I don't know, Atlanta, Nashville, LA, any of those places we tend to not do great at, but like the small to mid-sized towns, like we tend to, that's our bread and butter for sure. Just because there's a lot less competition. There's more like people who just there's not options for them every night to go out and see something, and they seem to appreciate what you're doing more, or at the very least they'll give you a chance more. Whereas like if you don't impress someone within 5 seconds, sometimes in major cities it can be tough to hold their attention for the whole song, more or less.
Yeah, I saw you're going to be in Columbus. That's one of my favorite towns for like indie comic stuff. Like
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big indie comic convention there, right?
Yeah, I've done that one before. I like that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're thinking that's another thing we kind of want to get into with this book in the next year is trying some of those like indie and small press conventions, because we've never done one before. We just actually a few weekends ago went up to Mice in Boston. Yeah. And that was we really enjoyed that. We weren't showing there, just kind of there as fans.
Yeah, this stuff would fit really great into like a zine fest. Those are my favorites. But
yeah. It was really cool. And yeah, we're hoping to kind of break into that culture a bit more. Do you find though? Do you because you showcase at those, right?
Yeah.
Do you find do you usually make money? Do you find
it's hit or miss?
Okay.
I like Zine Fest. So I do less comic shows and more Zine Fest and punk rock flea markets now.
Okay. Yeah.
And I tend to do way better at those. I love it. Like lately, whenever I've done one, there's always been one person that's come up and just been like, I have $40 or I have $60. What can I get for this? And like they'll have me put together a bundle just out of nowhere. Like they just see my art from a distance and they just come on over, and it's amazing. I've never had that at a comic show.
Man, I wonder if that's a post-COVID attitude. You know what I mean? Of just people who.
That's true, because I never had that before COVID.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I'll try to keep my eye out for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
those last couple times I've just been like, "What? Okay, cool."
Yeah, that's okay. That's great. Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's we're cautiously optimistic about doing stuff like that because I don't know. It's part of the reason we have stayed alive as a band and been able to make it is because you you play shows anywhere you can, but also you want to try to make the good decisions. And I know a lot of comic artists who they've told us that they've done conventions, but they rarely, if ever, even break even. But it's more like
there too.
yeah, and it's more the exposure and things. And it's we can only do so many of those and still stay alive on the road and
Exactly.
do things.
They're all day like events when you go to those.
Yeah,
a concert for 45 minutes. It's less of a. I mean, there's investment on the ends of those too, but as far as like 8 hours at a comic show, just standing there at a table, watching people walk by you, like those shows suck.
Yeah. That's. I mean, even when we were at Mice, there were a lot of tables where like, oh, that person's art looks cool. I want to check it out. I know I'm not going to buy anything from them, but I just want to see it,
Yeah.
And Liz and I were trying to think of like, whenever we do it, we want to make sure we set up our table, maybe even like wear shirts that just say like, I won't talk to you unless you talk to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the one thing that plagues those shows. Obviously, those artists need to make money and sell stuff, but like that expectation of that, I think you feel of like, oh, if I look too long at this, they're gonna be like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, and like, just see you with like a sale.
Yeah,
And
human interaction.
That's my favorite thing about the punk rock flea markets is that I'll have like really great conversations about bands and music, and then eventually somebody might be looking at what I'm actually selling and chat. But I'll get some good conversations at those. I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that's like, I think shows. We have our merch table set up, and sometimes there's a cover for show, sometimes it's free depending on the place and stuff. But we almost always have like great conversations and connect with people. And there have been a ton of times where, I mean, I guess, and this could be conventions too. You never know the long game, because I mean, there's one fan of ours I know in mind who discovered us when he was in college, and he was completely broke, but like loved our band. And then, because we've been going for 12 years, and so he just stayed a fan. He'd like show up at shows and stuff, and hardly ever bought anything or anything like that. And now he went to he passed the bar, and he's a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And so now he comes to shows, and he has a lot of money that he drops on like the painting or other things. And anytime we have a new piece of merch, he like gets it. And he's still a younger guy, but he's doing very well for himself, and he's still a big fan. And so, it's and that all came from just us having a good conversation with him. And as long as you kind of know and assume you're going to be doing this for a while, sometimes those people, you never know where that will go. And I don't know. It's always a thing that we always try to keep in mind of like, yeah, you never know. For instance, John, I'll say that Greenfield show, in my memory, it wasn't a very good show. And I don't feel like I felt like we had a tough time connecting with the crowd. And so when you reached out to me and stuff, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know anyone was there, but like,
exactly.
Again,
So
you were there,
always,
and I had no idea, and it led to this. Now there might be someone listening or whatever who checks us out, and who knows where that will lead. And so, I don't know. It's
that
always...
show was a little odd too. The way the room was set up. I've seen that room set up completely differently, where there were like bar table kind of set up upstairs, and it was completely different. And the fact that they had sorry about my horrible images here, but
it's very purple.
At any rate, I've never seen them have that like riser kind of thing like they did that time. And it was very odd, and it didn't feel like I could connect with the band as much. It felt very removed from, like, the audience felt very removed from the show. If that makes sense.
I completely agree. And that's, I mean, I felt, and I hope in your recollection, I think we performed well. But that was, I remember it's tough. Cause we've really honed our act and everything in like, small bars and tight spaces. And like, when you're like kind of almost standing next to Elizabeth watching her paint. And so when there's like a big, like we recently played an outdoor festival in Ohio, and it wasn't like a bunch of people there, but they were just spread out over like a half acre or maybe even a whole acre. And it was just, it felt very far away, and we didn't sell much merch afterwards or anything. But then I have a friend who knows a lot of people, and they said we were their favorite set of the whole like festival, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, no one told me, but. So yeah, anyway, all that is to say, it's just you never know who's listening. You never know where something will lead. You never know
Exactly.
what kind
Sometimes
of podcast people have who's at the show.
Yeah, and sometimes people come in and they'll pick up a business card or something like that, and you'll think that it's just like, oh, they're never going to check my stuff out. But then suddenly they're checking in for a podcast or something like that. And it is always good to treat everyone like, you know, I always love just chatting people up when I'm at a show, and just that's how you get to know folks, and that's how, like you said, hopefully long term it builds wonderful long term relationships that you get to call back and have a good time with it. So
it's, you know, recently I've been kind of joking about how it's been a common thing, and I think there's almost people, if for anyone in a band, where like sometimes the other bands, if you're playing on like a bill, I found sometimes they don't necessarily give you the time of day much before your set, and like, you know, oh, hey, how you doing, and shake your hands or whatever. And then after we play, they'll come up and be like, oh, that was awesome. Wow, I didn't know you guys were doing. And it's like, oh, you guys are so cool. And I'm always kind of like, I was cool before too. you just didn't know it. Right? I mean, I always try to like be friendly and talk to other bands and stuff. You know, sometimes I have off days and maybe I'm not at my best, and but I always try to make an effort to kind of just be friendly and welcoming to everyone before anyone plays the set, because I don't know, that's always like, it's fine, and I get it, I understand. You know, sometimes you just, when you realize there's something interesting and cool about a person, it just makes them like, oh, you a reason to talk to them or whatever. And so I not to say whatever, you know what I mean. But it's I don't know. That's always just something that kind of bugs me, and I've been thinking about a lot recently. I don't know why. It's been very much on my mind the last month.
Like, honestly, like, so if I'm looking back at that night, I remember I was sitting in the risers, probably a little off sides to you and Elizabeth that evening, and I didn't know who you guys were until you went on stage. So it's always interesting to see, oh, that was the band.
Oh, that's yeah. Well, I mean, as a, if you weren't like, as a fan, I don't expect like people just at the bar. I'm mostly talking about like other bands that we play with.
Okay.
Who don't, like not like showgoers. Like, no, I don't expect anyone showgoers to know or come and just start talking to me.
Yeah.
I just mean, when you get to a place, it's like, oh, you're in the other band. Cool. I'm Eric. And there's sometimes there's just like a standoffishness, or, if there's talk about like sharing a drum kit or like doing all sorts of things, and bands can get like weird about their own stuff. But then like, if after you play, often people are like, oh, okay, cool, I get it and what you're doing, and okay, that's, and I just sometimes wish we didn't all have to prove our own worth and just kind of accept each other before we play the set. I don't know, that's my, if you're in a DIY scene or anything, I think that's a good goal to have.
Exactly. Yeah. Treat everybody like they're all rock stars, because you're fantastic.
And also same with the people in the audience too. And I think but yeah, I didn't mean what I said. That I don't mean that for anyone who's like just there to see the show, who like, it's like, how come no one's walking up to me and thinking I have a cool face or whatever? No. It's just
no, that's not what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I know, but I realized I was talking with someone about this recently, and they mistook that, and I just reminded myself, for like anyone listening, like, that's not what I mean.
Well, if somebody wants to find your tour dates, would that be the pocketvinyl.com?
Yeah, pocketvinyl.com. They're also, they're listed on Spotify. They're listed on our Bandcamp. We're on Bands in Town. We try to make it as prevalent on the internet as we possibly can. So it's thankfully, if you just Google Pocket Vinyl, there's nothing else on the internet except us with that name. We really lucked out with a band name.
And I will say that you guys have the book plate thing going on as well. So if people want,
yeah. So if anyone, so we obviously have the book. Here, I'll hold it up again if you can see the the cover. How to Completely Lose Your Mind. If you order this online or something and send us, there we go. If you order this online and send us a receipt or something, like a picture of a receipt, we will send you a signed book plate in the mail for free. So you can then like stick that in the book and have an instant signed copy.
You have those book
Or-
plates with you on your tour?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, we'll have those even if people just want it as a sticker or something. And
I am
we also
certainly
have like
gonna-
if you come to shows, we have exclusive T-shirts that we just have at shows. Everyone who gets a book at a show, we have these glittery stickers and bookmarks and things that come free with it. We have all sorts of incentives. And I'll say if you want to come, I mean, they'll all be. I'm sure they'll all be kind of intimate shows, so because that's the kind of places we play. So
That's
if you want a great, we're a great performance. I feel very confident about what we do, and we've done it over 1,000 times, so we're very practiced. And
Did you guys have anything else in Massachusetts coming up again? I didn't see anything.
Let me see.
Because I want one of those cat shirts. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, that's
thing
cool.
was-
I like that one.
At the
Wonderful.
moment, no, we have no Massachusetts on
Okay.
the books. But we in the spring and stuff, I'm sure we'll be getting like one or two. We actually just had someone from Boston reach out to us and ask us if we wanted to do a show somewhere up there. So yes, we'll try to do that. And there are a bunch of libraries and bookstores I'm intending to reach out to.
Awesome.
We made 149 of those shirts recently, and we'll probably be making more of those because it's the first time we usually just always create a new design, and this is the first time we've brought a design out of retirement. It's a cat on fire that says Pocket Vinyl on it, and that was the same design we had when we did the 50 States tour in 2019.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
and
we're bringing
Elizabeth
it
does
back.
a wonderful job with kitties, and I remember getting this at the show. I don't know if
Yeah. Yeah, the cat's person. Yeah, that's a book she did of. We actually didn't even know that was going to be a book, but she posted a panel. It was last Halloween, 2 Halloweens ago, for Inktober, where you try to draw something every day. And we wrote together like an iambic pentameter poem about a cat whose person dies, and they're living out the rest of their lives like missing their person. And it was 31 panels there, and someone was just at the end of the month was like, "Can I buy this as a book?" And we're just like, "Oh, yeah, I guess we can make one." Yeah, so we kind of made one without intending to, but it was actually a funny thing. Recently, a 4-year-old came and bought that book, and then we told her. I told her, I was like, "Oh, Elizabeth is the one who drew that," and she's like, "Really?" And she goes away and comes back with a friend, and her friend was kind of like 9 or 10, and was like, "So she wants a picture with Elizabeth." And so this 4-year-old took a picture with the cat's person. And Elizabeth and I love thinking about, and this is what we're hoping will happen 20 years from now, is that child will love that book and just love the drawings and everything. And then, it'll become a huge part of their childhood. And then they'll put it aside. It'll get lost in a box somewhere. And sometime in their 20s or 30s, they'll find it again and being like, "Oh, I loved this kid's book." And then open it up and read through it and realize it's about, a person who dies and their cat that's still surviving in the world. And
Oh my
it's
God.
Wow, I completely missed all this subtext. And so,
But there's some really cute cats in there.
yeah. Anyway, that's our hope for that for 20, 30 years from now for that little girl. I really hope she somehow finds the subtext of it long time from now.
That's wonderful.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Eric.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, man.
Great time.
This is a blast. I know I can be a bit of a ranter and stuff, but I hope
you were-
what I had to say interesting.
It was terrific.
That's exactly what we're looking for on this show. So thank
Awesome.
you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. This is absolutely a pleasure. It was good to be
Thank
here.
you.
Yes.
Well, I hope to see you on the road.
Yeah, definitely.
Ditto. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to our listeners on behalf of myself and John. And we'll be back sometime soon. I think we have something on the 29th. What do we got on the 29th, John?
That's a very good question. I can't remember for the life of me right now.
It'll be great.
The Margaret Hooligans.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back. Hey, you made it through an entire episode. Good for you. If you're looking for more, give the rest of the channel a look. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We'll catch you fuckers next time. Later.